Now, two other antioxidants which are also quite often used are sulfur dioxide and sulfite salts. So, these are used as antioxidants. Let us see where. So, SO2, that is sulfur dioxide, and sulfite salts having SO3 2 minus. So, SO2 and sulfite salts having the anion SO3 2 minus. They are also very popular antioxidants because SO2 can be readily oxidized to SO3 and SO3 2 minus. The sulfites can be oxidized to sulfates. So, they preferentially undergo oxidation compared to the food that they are trying to protect. So, these are the antioxidants used in wines which are prepared from grapes, wines, beers, okay, and then you have other sugar syrups. So, if you want to keep sugar syrups fresh for a longer time, it is advisable to add either SO2 or sulfite salts to increase their shelf life. And not only that, cut and sliced, very often you get sliced vegetables. So, to keep them fresh for a longer time, you have to add these particular antioxidants. So, cut and sliced vegetables and dried fruits. Vegetables and dried fruits. So, in all these areas, SO2 and sulfite salts play an important role in keeping the food fresh for a longer time or increasing the shelf life. So, that is about antioxidants. Next, let us talk about the application of chemistry in cleansing agents. So, that is our next discussion. Let us talk about cleansing agents. So, we are going to discuss about, this was the second application in food industry. First, we talked about application of chemistry in medicine or drugs. Second was application in the food industry, where we saw the sweetening agents or sweeteners, we saw the preservatives and the antioxidants. Now, let us talk about the third application of chemistry in cleansing agents. Cleansing agents. So, what are these cleansing agents? They are used to keep our surroundings clean. So, we clean our body, we also clean our surroundings. For that purpose, we have these cleansing agents available, and most of them are chemicals. So, that is how chemistry plays an important role in this area of cleansing agents also. So, any cleansing agent increases the cleaning capacity of water. Washing with water is different from washing with water containing some soap or detergent. So, you can clean better if you use soaps and detergents rather than just water. So, these cleansing agents, they improve the cleaning property of water. So, what do cleaning agents do? Cleaning or cleansing agents, they are called as cleansing agents. Broadly, we will classify these cleansing agents into soaps and detergents, synthetic detergents. So, whatever it may be, what do cleansing agents do? They improve the cleaning capacity of water. Improve the cleaning capacity of water, cleaning property of water. Right. So, broadly we are going to classify these cleansing agents into soaps and detergents. Let us begin our discussion with what are called as soaps. So, we are all familiar with this word soap. We know it is used for cleaning various things, not only cleaning ourselves, also cleaning the various objects around us, the floors, the windows and so on. So, what exactly are these soaps? Let us see. Soaps, chemically you can define soaps as sodium or potassium salts of fatty acids. So let us define soaps. They are sodium. Why only sodium or potassium? Sodium or potassium salts of fatty acids. What are fatty acids? We have studied under carboxylic acid. Long chain carboxylic acids are usually called as fatty acids because they are obtained from fats, and their long chains, they usually contain C12 to C18 carbon chains. So very long chains made up of 12 carbons or 12 to 18 carbons, they are termed as fatty acids. Generally you have these present in what are called as fats. Right. Now, so soaps are chemically defined as sodium or potassium salts of fatty acids. Why only sodium or potassium salts? Because only these salts are soluble in water. Most other salts are insoluble in water, so you cannot use them for cleaning purposes. That is why soaps are basically sodium or potassium salts of fatty acids. Now, compared to sodium salts, potassium salts are found to be very gentle on the skin. So, if you use a soap which is a potassium salt of fatty acid, it will be very gentle on your skin. So, usually toilet soaps are potassium salts of fatty acids, right. Now, how do you prepare these soaps? These soaps are prepared from fats. Now, what are fats? Fats are glyceryl esters of fatty acids. Just now we said what are fatty acids? They are carboxylic acids having very long carbon chains. How long? C12 to C18. So, around that range. Generally the fatty acids, the fats containing the fatty acids, stearic. So, stearic acid is a fatty acid, oleic acid is a fatty acid, right. Palmitic acid is a fatty acid, palmitic acid. What are all these? These are fatty acids present in fats. Long chain carboxylic acids found in fats. How are we defining these fats? Fats are defined as glyceryl esters of fatty acids. What is the meaning of that? An ester. What is an ester? Ester is formed by the reaction between an alcohol and an acid. So, the acid is a fatty acid. Then what is the alcohol? The alcohol is glycerol. So, what is the structure of glycerol? You have CH2OH, CHOH and CH2OH. This is what is called as glycerol. It is a triol because it is containing 3 hydroxyl groups in it. So, fats are nothing but the esters formed by the reaction of fatty acids with the alcohol, the trihydric alcohol, that is called as glycerol. That is why fats are described as glyceryl esters of fatty acids. Now, let us draw the structure of this fat and see how we can get our soaps from these materials. So, all soaps are manufactured from what are called as fats. So, fats are the starting material for the manufacture of soaps. What do you do to these fats? Fats are heated with sodium or potassium hydroxide. If you heat it with sodium hydroxide, you get sodium salt of fatty acid. If you heat it with potassium hydroxide, you will get potassium salt of fatty acid. So, we said soaps are sodium or potassium salts of fatty acids, right. So, your starting material for manufacturing soaps is fats. So, let us write the reaction where soaps are formed. That particular reaction is called as saponification. In other words, it means soap formation. So, what is saponification reaction? It is the reaction of fat with either NaOH or KOH, an alkali, water soluble bases. So, when these bases react with fat, what happens is on heating they produce what are called as soaps. So, the formation of soap, the reaction involving the formation of soap is called as saponification or soap formation. So, let us write the chemical equation for the formation of soap. As I already told you, sodium and potassium salts are water soluble. That is the reason why only those salts are good as cleaning agents or cleansing agents. So, let us now write the reaction of saponification, right. What is saponification? The process in which soap is formed by heating fat with either NaOH or KOH. So, what is our fat now? It is a glyceryl ester of fatty acid. So, let us suppose this is our fat, CH2O, CHO. This is the glyceryl part, glycerol part, and C double bond O, C17H35. This is the stearic acid part, H35. CnH2n plus 1, that is the alkyl group formula. This is a saturated hydrocarbon chain, H35. So, this is a fat, stearic acid fat, right. This is a glyceryl part, and that is the fatty acid part. So, combination of fatty acid with glycerol gives you an ester. This is a triester, 3 ester groups are present, so it is a triester. So, fats are usually triesters of fatty acids with glycerol. That is why they are called as glyceryl esters, of fatty acids. Ester of fatty acid. So, what happens when you heat it with sodium hydroxide? What happens? This structure breaks up, giving you your glycerol, CH2OH, CHOH, CH2OH. This is our glycerol, along with 3 moles of the fatty acid. So, this part OH, H. So, when H comes this side, we have H, OH added, hydrolysis of the ester, giving you, this part becomes the fatty acid. 3 moles of the fatty acids are obtained along with glycerol. So, 3 moles of C17H35 COOH. And because there is NaOH here, it will give COONA. So, this is the sodium salt of fatty acid, which is nothing but soap, sodium stearate. What is the name of this soap? Chemical name, sodium stearate. So, this particular reaction in which a fat is converted into soap, that reaction is called as saponification. Saponification, soap formation, that is what it means. So, how is soap manufactured? It is manufactured by heating fat with either sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide or any suitable alkali which is water soluble, and that results in the hydrolysis of the ester, giving rise to glycerol, the trihydric alcohol, and soap, which is either a sodium salt of fatty acid or potassium salt of fatty acid, right. So, this reaction is called as saponification or soap formation, right. Now, when the reaction is actually carried out, this soap is obtained as a colloidal solution. What is a colloidal solution? We have studied different types of solution depending on the particle size. 1 micron to 1 millimicron, if the solute particles are lying in this range 1 micron to 1 millimicron, then that solution obtained is called as a colloidal solution. So, when this reaction is carried out, saponification results in the formation of a colloidal solution of soap in water along with glycerol. Now, this glycerol can be separated out by fractional distillation, and what remains would be the colloidal solution. Now, you can make those particles of soap settle down or precipitate that colloidal solution by the addition of sodium chloride. So, the colloidal solution of soap after glycerol is removed, that is treated with sodium chloride to precipitate the soap particles, and that is how you get soap. So, soap manufacture basically involves a hydrolysis reaction called saponification, heating of fat with either NaOH or KOH or a suitable alkali to give you glycerol and a colloidal solution of soap. That colloidal solution can be converted into, it can be precipitated by addition of sodium chloride, and glycerol is separated by what is called as fractional distillation. Now, various types of soaps are obtained based on the additives. So, if you vary the raw materials, you will get different types of soap. So, let us see what are the different types of soaps we have. So, we are talking about soaps, types of soaps. How can you get different types of soaps? By varying the raw materials. What are the raw materials we said? Fat and either NaOH or KOH. Varying the raw materials. Now, we have different types of soaps. The first type is the toilet soap, which we use for bathing, toilet soap. We already said potassium salts or fatty acids are more gentle and soft on the skin. So, preferably usually you use potassium salts or fatty acids as toilet soaps. So, not only that, some colors are also added and some perfumes are also added so that it makes the soaps more attractive. So, toilet soaps are usually made from a superior quality fat. Superior quality fat. As we said, starting materials for preparing soaps are fats. So, superior quality fats are used in preparing toilet soaps because they have to be used on our skin. So, usually cream from milk, that can be used as the fat for preparing this particular toilet soap. So, whatever may be the fat used, it should be of superior quality so that it is gentle on the skin. And in addition to that, some colors are also added and also perfumes are added. Why? To make them attractive. To make them attractive. What are the types of soaps we know? We know what are called as floating soaps, very light floating soaps. Now, how are these floating soaps prepared? So, the soap bubbles. So, by blowing bubbles into the soap solution before they are hardened, that will give you a very light soap which floats in water. So, this is generating bubbles, generating soap bubbles before it hardens, before hardening of soap. This produces what are called as floating soaps. Then you have transparent soaps like Pears, transparent soaps. Now, how do you get these transparent soaps? They are obtained by dissolving the soap in alcohol. So, dissolving soap in alcohol or preparing the soap in alcohol and evaporating the excess solvent. Evaporating the excess solvent. This gives rise to what is called as transparent soap. So what are the different types you have seen so far? Toilet soaps obtained from superior quality fat like milk cream and so on. Then adding some colors, attractive colors, adding perfumes to the raw materials, that makes them more attractive. Then we saw how floating soaps are made. They are made by blowing bubbles into the soap solution and allowing it to harden. So bubbles are blown before the hardening process happens. That gives rise to what are called as floating soap. For the kids, for them to play in water, usually they use floating soaps. Similarly, transparent soaps. The transparency is because of the presence of alcohol, and that excess alcohol is evaporated in the soap manufacture. So that gives rise to transparent soaps. Then you have what are called as shaving soaps. Now what is the quality required for shaving soap? It should not dry very fast, because till he uses the razor on it, the soap has to remain in full froth. So to increase that drying time, usually they add some additive. So shaving soap has glycerol. Glycerol is added. We saw the structure of glycerol, it is a trihydric alcohol. So why is glycerol added to the raw materials of shaving soap? Because this glycerol increases the drying time of that foam. So when he applies that on the face, what happens? It remains in the form of foam for a longer time due to the presence of glycerol. And not only that, a gum which is called as rosinate, rosin, it is called as rosin. So a gum called rosin is also added because this lathers well. It produces lather, profuse lather, lathers well. So what are the extra things that are added in the raw materials for preparing shaving soap? Glycerol is added to increase the drying time of that lather. And to produce lots of lather, this material which is called gum rosin, it is a type of gum, it is added to produce more lather, right? And because our soap is a sodium salt of fatty acid, that rosin will react with that sodium part and form sodium rosinate. So sodium rosinate is responsible for the lather that is produced, sodium rosinate. So those are the extra materials added to our shaving soap. And not only that, we get soap in the form of flakes, soap flakes. How do you get these soap flakes? Like small pieces of soap are used. Now those soap flakes or soap chips, they are called. So the soap chips you can easily get by pouring the soap solution onto cold cylinders. So rolling cylinders which are kept at a low temperature, if you pour a thin layer of soap solution over those cylinders, then it will freeze, and if you scrape off, you will get small pieces of soap, and those are called as soap chips. So how are soap chips or soap flakes produced? By pouring thin layer of soap solution onto cold cylinders, and scraping off small pieces of soap, small pieces. These pieces are called chips. So this is another way of preparing another type of soap, that is soap chips. Then you have scarring agents, scarring to scrub your vessels, scarring agents or scarring soaps. So our scarring soaps should have what are called as scarring agents. Now usually the scarring agents used are you have pumice powder. You get that pumice stone, which is a very light stone which we use for cleaning. So, pumice powder is one of the abrasive used, pumice powder, or fine sand is present in the scarring soaps, and these are called as the scarring agents. What is the meaning of scarring agents? Rough surfaces they are. So, when scrubbed against a rough surface, the dirt can be removed easily. So, that is why these scarring agents are very useful when present in soap powders, right. Then we use builders also. Builders like sodium carbonate, Na2CO3, borax. These are builders. What do builders do? They improve the cleaning action of soap. So, builders are also added, like even your rosinate, sodium rosinate is also a good builder, right. So, scarring soaps are used which contain these scarring agents which are called as abrasives. What are abrasives? They are hard. They provide rough surfaces for effective cleaning. So, scarring soaps you have. Then you have the soap powders. They also have these what you call as builders, that is sodium carbonate, borax, sodium silicate. Those are the extra materials added to the raw materials to make the cleaning action more effective. So, like this, by varying the raw materials that you are using for preparing these soaps, you can get different types of soaps, right. Now, having talked about the soaps, let us talk about the next type of cleansing agents that are called as detergents. Now, one disadvantage of soaps is that they produce lather in soft water, but in hard water they become very ineffective. Why is it that we cannot use soaps in hard water? Let us discuss that. So, we have said soap is either sodium or potassium salt of fatty acid. Let us take the example of sodium stearate. Sodium stearate is an example of a commonly used soap, stearate. What is the formula? You have C17H35COO Na. This is our soap or sodium stearate, right. Now, in hard water, usually hardness of water is due to the presence of salts of calcium and magnesium. Either bicarbonate, sulfates or chlorides of calcium and magnesium are responsible for hardness of water. Does it mean water is hard? It is not hard or soft. This is hardness with respect to lather formation. So, when you wash clothes in one type of water, lot of lather is produced. In another sample of water, how much ever soap you add, you do not get sufficient lather. So, that sample of water where lather is not produced much, that is called as hard water. So, why is soap not producing lather in hard water? That is because this soap reacts with the calcium and magnesium ions present in hard water. And those calcium and magnesium, supposing our hard water contains calcium chloride. So, the hardness is due to the presence of dissolved calcium chloride in it. Now, what happens when you add soap to that hard water? The reaction takes place like this. This sodium is replaced by calcium there, double decomposition takes place, and you have C17H35COO twice Ca plus NaCl form. So, 2 NaCl. Now, what is this? This separates out as a insoluble soap. This is called as soap scum. This is a precipitate. It is insoluble in water. So, whatever soap that you have added to hard water gets wasted because it precipitates out as an insoluble soap which is called as soap scum. In that way the cleaning action of soap is interfered with. So before it can actually bring about the cleaning, it gets precipitated as the soap scum and gets wasted. That is the reason why we cannot use soaps in hard water. So no effective cleaning is possible if it is used in hard water. And cleaning action of soap we have already studied in earlier classes. Just to mention, the cleaning action of soap is due to the formation of micelles. We know what are micelles, right? This soap is a sodium stearate that readily ionizes C17H35COO Na. This soap, when you put in water, it will produce these ions C17H35COO minus plus Na plus. So these ions are produced. Now this is the stearate ion or the soap ion. Soap ion is very tiny, right? Now this soap ion has a structure like this. We show the soap ion like this. It has a head and a tail. The tail part is this long hydrocarbon part C17H35. The 17 carbons in a long chain with the hydrogens, that is the hydrocarbon chain. This is called as the hydrophobic end, water hating end. And the head is the COO minus part which is carrying the charge. So the negative charge, this is called as the head. And this is hydrophobic tail. And this is hydrophilic head. So we are talking about the cleaning action of soap. How is it that soap is able to clean grease? Suppose you have a small handkerchief with a small patch of grease on it. You want to clean that grease. How will you clean it? You will dip it in soap solution, in water containing a little bit of soap dissolved in it. So what happens to the soap when it is dissolved? It produces these ions, that is the stearate ions. Now the stearate ions have two parts. The head, which is the COO minus part, that is hydrophilic, water loving part, and the long tail of 17 carbons in case of stearate ion, that is hydrophobic or water hating. So all these ions which are there in the solution, soap solution, they will come and gather around this with their tails fixed up in the grease and the heads in water. And when they are all aggregated together, they come close together, the size increases, it becomes colloidal size, and this forms what is called as a micelle. And when you rub with the hand or you brush with the brush, what happens? These micelles get detached from the grease. So along with the grease, it is removed during the rubbing or the brushing action, and that is what is called as the cleaning action of soap. So soap cleans by emulsification of grease. So that means the grease is removed along with the micelles. So micelle is nothing but attachment of the soap ions by their tails into the grease and heads floating in water. So when they are all clubbed together or concentrated together in one place, their size becomes large enough to be detached along with the grease, and that is what is called as the cleaning action of soap, right? So soaps, they do well, the cleaning process is very effective in soft water, but in hard water what happens is they form insoluble precipitates which are called as scum. And because of the formation of scum, the soap gets wasted and it does not produce much lather with soap. That is why the water is said to be hard and soaps are not effective for cleaning in hard water, right. So you have better cleansing agents which function well even in hard water. So there comes our discussion of the next type of cleansing agents which are called as detergents or synthetic detergents. So let us discuss about detergents now. What are these detergents? They also have soap like qualities. They are also very good cleaning agents or cleansing agents, but they are effective in soft water as well as in hard water. So if you use detergents in hard water, they are able to produce enough of lather, just like in soft water. So definitely in this respect they are more superior to soaps. So how do you define detergents? What are detergents? Detergents are similar to soaps but do not contain soap. Similar to soaps in but do not contain soap. So these detergents are effective cleansing agents. They are effective cleaning agents or cleansing agents in soft as well as hard water. Now in fact some of the detergents are effective in ice cold water also. So they are able to produce lather even in ice cold water. So they are much efficient cleansing agents compared to soaps because of their activity even in hard water, right. Now we can classify the detergents into three types. What are the three types? One is anionic detergents, second cationic detergents, cationic, and the third is non-ionic detergents. Non-ionic detergents. Now what is this classification based on? It is based on whether it is the anionic part which is having the cleansing action, the cationic part, or there are no charges at all in our detergent molecule. So based on that, detergents are classified into these three categories. Now let us come to the anionic detergents. These are the detergents that we use for our household work and also used in toothpaste. So these anionic detergents, the anionic part of the molecule of detergent is responsible for the cleaning action. So let us see what are these anionic detergents, right. Now so anionic detergents, these are basically, if you speak chemically, they are sodium salts of either long chain alcohols or long chain hydrocarbons. So they are sodium salts of long chain alcohols or hydrocarbons. So since we are saying sodium salts, the cation present in them is sodium, and it is the anion part which is responsible for the cleaning action of that particular detergent. For example, let us take the example of lauryl alcohol. Lauryl alcohol. What is lauryl alcohol? Let us write the formula. CH3, CH2, 10 times, CH2OH. Now this is called as lauryl alcohol, having 12 carbons in it. It's a long chain alcohol. Now this lauryl alcohol, when it is treated with concentrated sulfuric acid, it forms lauryl hydrogen sulfate. Let us write the structure. CH3, CH2 10 times, and then you have CH2O SO3H. This part has come from sulfuric acid, the sulfonic acid part. So this is called as lauryl hydrogen sulfate. Lauryl hydrogen sulfate. This, when it is treated with NaOH, gives you sodium lauryl sulfate. So it becomes CH3 CH2 10 times CH O SO3 Na, SO3 minus and Na plus, right. So this is nothing but this is called sodium lauryl sulfate, lauryl sulfate. So that is an example for an anionic detergent. So anionic detergents are basically sodium salts of either long chain alcohols or long chain hydrocarbons. This is an example with long chain alcohol. So sodium lauryl sulfate is an anionic detergent. It is the anionic part, that is CH3, CH2, 10, CHO, SO3 minus, that part of the detergent molecule is responsible for the cleaning action. That is why it is classified under anionic detergent. Similarly, let us take another example where a long chain hydrocarbon is used for preparing the anionic detergent. So let us take the other example for anionic detergent, that is dodecyl sodium dodecyl benzene. So the second example for anionic detergent is you start with the hydrocarbon, the long chain hydrocarbon, that is dodecyl benzene. What is dodecyl benzene? Do meaning 2, decyl meaning 10. So 10 plus 2, 12. So this hydrocarbon is having 12 carbons again, and it is attached to benzene ring. So that is why it is called as dodecyl benzene. Similar reaction with concentrated sulfuric acid and then with NaOH gives you the anionic detergent. So let us write the reaction for the preparation of that particular anionic detergent. So you have dodecyl, so you have to have 12 carbons. So you have CH3, CH2, 11 times, so 11 plus 1 becomes 12, so that is dodecyl group, and you have a benzene ring like this. This is dodecyl benzene. So this is the starting material for preparing this particular anionic detergent. Now this, when it is treated with concentrated sulfuric acid, gives you CH3 CH2 11 times with the benzene ring as it is unaffected, and there is this group SO3H group from sulfuric acid, that is dodecyl benzene sulfonic acid. So dodecyl benzene sulfonic acid. I have just written the short form here, dodecyl benzene sulfonic acid. That when it is treated with NaOH as usual, it will give you the sodium salt of that particular acid, that is, shall we write here, CH3 CH2 11 times, benzene is there, benzene ring, SO3 and Na, SO3 minus and Na plus. So this is our sodium dodecyl benzene sulfonate, right. So this is another example for the anionic detergent. Now as I told you, these anionic detergents are very widely used in our household work and also used in toothpaste. Now let us go on to the second category of detergents, that is cationic detergents, where the cationic part of the detergent molecule is responsible for the cleaning action. Usually they are ammonium salts, quaternary ammonium salts of amines. Let us see how they are formed, how they function. So the second category, anionic, is over. Now let us talk about cationic detergents. Now these cationic detergents, they have germicidal properties. They can kill germs, and they are found to be very expensive also. So the expensive soaps are usually cationic detergents, and chemically if we have to describe them, they are quaternary ammonium salts, quaternary ammonium salts of amines, ammonium salts of amines. We know what are amines, derivatives of ammonia. So quaternary ammonium salts of amines with positive charge on nitrogen, positive charge on nitrogen, and usually acetate, chloride or bromide as the anion. So these are the specifications for this type of cationic detergents. Cetyl trimethyl ammonium bromide is the example for the cationic detergent. So let us write the structure. So cetyl trimethyl ammonium bromide. This is the example for the cationic detergent. Now as you can see, the bromide part, the Br minus part is the anion, and it is the positive part which is responsible for, it is having that long carbon chain and responsible for the cleaning action. That's why they are classified under cationic detergents. Now cetyl has 16 carbons in it. So that cetyl group, let us write that cetyl group. So CH3 CH2 15 times. So 15 plus 1 16. Cetyl trimethyl ammonium. Trimethyl meaning there are 3 methyl groups. Trimethyl ammonium. Ammonium we know is NH4 plus, right? So all the hydrogens have been replaced in NH4 plus. 3 of them have been replaced or substituted by methyl groups, and the 4th hydrogen in ammonium is substituted by this cetyl group which has 16 carbons in it, and bromide. So Br minus. Now the action of these detergents also is similar to that of soaps, where the long hydrocarbon part attaches to the grease and the head part attaches to the or it is floating in water. It forms micelles and they are removed by scrubbing or brushing action. So the action, the cleansing action is the same in both soaps and detergents, only their chemical structure and formation or chemical nature is slightly different. But one advantage of detergents over soaps is they can be used even in hard water. That means they do not form insoluble soaps in hard water like how the soaps form. So they don't get wasted in hard water, they can be effectively used even in hard water, right. So these are the cationic detergents. Next let us go on to, as I told you, these are used in, they are having germicidal properties. Usually cationic detergents are able to kill germs. That is why, due to this added advantage, usually these soaps are expensive, right. Now let us talk about the last category of detergents, that is non-ionic detergents. As the name suggests, there are no ions present in their molecule, so they are non-ionic. So the third category is non-ionic detergents. Now these detergents do not have any ions in their molecule. Let us take one common example. Non-ionic detergent, one best example, a very common example for non-ionic detergent is obtained by reaction between stearic acid and polyethylene glycol. Now these are usually used in dishwashing soaps. the soaps that we use for dishwashing, usually they contain these non-ionic detergents. So let us see the structure of one common example of non-ionic detergents. So as I said, stearic acid, it contains 17 carbons in it. So let us write the structure: CH3, CH2, 16 times, 16 plus 1, 17, and COOH. This is our stearic acid, long chain carboxylic acid. And condensation reaction of stearic acid with polyethylene glycol. Now that is a polymer of ethylene glycol. So when that reacts with stearic acid, you get this non-ionic detergent. So let us write the formula of polyethylene glycol. Now this is stearic acid, CH3, CH2, 16 times, COOH, that is stearic acid, and this is polyethylene glycol, polyethylene glycol. As you can see, it is a polymer of ethylene glycol. The OH group outside, this is the ethylene glycol part repeated n times, and this. Now on condensation, a water molecule will be lost, OH, and H from here is lost as water, and you will get this particular compound, EH216, COO, CH2, CH2O, H, n times, CH2, CH2OH. Now this is our detergent. So as I said, non-ionic detergents are used in dishwashing liquids. So most of the soaps that we use as dishwashing liquids, they contain non-ionic detergents. So this is about our discussion. As I said, the cleaning action of detergents is exactly similar to the cleaning action of soaps. Like micelle formation takes place here also, the micelles are removed by scrubbing or brushing action. Now coming to the environmental effects of these detergents. Now usually if this hydrocarbon chain, if it is highly branched, if the long hydrocarbon present in detergents is highly branched, then it produces foaming. So after washing, the waste mix up with the effluents, and the effluents enter into the water bodies. Now when they enter the water bodies, they produce foaming in rivers, ponds, lakes, wherever the effluents are entering, and that is a serious environmental hazard. Now these effluents containing the detergents with heavily branched structures, they cannot be readily degraded by the bacteria. So they accumulate in the environment and they are very hazardous. So care is now being taken to restrict branching in the hydrocarbon ends of these detergents. So with this we complete this unit on chemistry in everyday life.
If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel to get more videos on CBSE syllabus.